exciting LinkedIn Live. I've got one of my best guest host stars, Gretchen Skelko, with us today. And Gretchen's just an excellent resource and colleague when it comes to career transition. And what do you have to say this week to start the show off, Gretchen?
It's funny because right before the show, we were talking about mindset, which is very big with me. It's one of the things that is pretty much in every program that I deliver to my clients because everything starts there. And everything that's possible is because of what is there. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's really, really important. And the work, especially in the work that I do. I mean, I am a former journalist, reporter, editor, turned marketing director, and now I am a career strategist and leadership development coach. And my coaching centers on helping people achieve that transformational change through the application of personal systems design. So thinking design and mindset is a huge part of that. So I had to just smile really big when
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that because it's everything. It's everything. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're together, is because we align so much in the foundation of what we're doing. And by the way, chat's available. Anybody wants to interact with us, happy to recognize them on the show today. And feel free just to share who you are and where you're from, if that's where we want to begin from. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Gretchen, because everybody I seem to meet on LinkedIn has the capability of doing better than they're doing if they can get out of their own way,
Yeah.
because there's always reasons to do things. And, there's a saying, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. And, it's just the doing of it, taking the initiative, you know, and I think, to your point, putting a plan is so essential because you have something to relate to, and if you don't, that gives yourself feedback to saying maybe the plan was a little too stringent, or maybe I need to up my game as far as giving it a try.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the mindset needs to balance what somebody wants with what someone expects to invest to get it.
Yeah, and for me, it all starts with what you believe is actually possible for you. So, a couple of maybe it was even a month ago now when I was on your show, somebody wrote in asking, how you can work with somebody or get somebody over not being good enough and not being able to succeed. And and I mentioned at the time, and I'm paraphrasing that, and I hope I'm not getting it too wrong, but my comment at the time was nobody comes into this world thinking that. Nobody is created thinking that they have limitations. None of us do. We'd never learn to walk if that was the case, right? So we all know that there is infinite possibility. It's inference from external sources over time that begin to chip away at that and how we interpret those inferences. So again, those thoughts that you have, whether they're independent because you've observed something and come to a conclusion based on that, or that somebody else has directly told you, but those repeated thoughts over time become the beliefs that we have, and the
Mhm.
beliefs that we have absolutely impact fundamentally at the root cause. They impact every decision we make, which impacts the actions that we take. That's how our lives are created. That's how those thoughts become things, how we create our own realities. And a lot of people, will say, "Oh no, that's not true, or that's woo woo, and I can't see how that happens." But it's those little things over time. So that's where things like a plan, and it doesn't have to be too rigid. It's just sometimes it's a matter of building in certain activities that are positive habit builders. It's one of the reasons why the James Clear book, Atomic Habits, is so popular and so widely read, is because they're actionable, things that you can do every day that will help bring about the life that you envision for yourself.
Mhm.
I was just thinking yesterday, it's so funny. Last night I was thinking, I used to have a USB powered 8 ball, the little thing that you push it and it
Mhm.
tells you, like, it answers a question. And those are fun. But, I started thinking, in a way, everybody does have their own sort of 8 ball or crystal ball. We don't, not, because again, if we think about it, that's a way to sort of divine the future. So, for example, most people I know have that thing inside them where they're like, I always wanted to do blah, or I feel like I would be good at that. When I was little,
Mhm.
I thought I would be X. And then and there's a reason that we think that. There's a reason that's inside us to do. And then the thing that people say, you're really good at that. Don, you're really good at this, whatever it is. And on some level, there's going to be a touch point with that thing inside of us because you're bringing it out little by little and it's getting recognized by people. But we are so apt at societally, it's not just you, me, or other people, it's everybody. We are so prone to push that down because there's this
Mhm.
linear path I'm supposed to follow in my life. And I need to hit these benchmarks, go to school, graduate, go to college, university, graduate, hit the job, get the promotion, get the house, get married, whatever it is. But there's a sort of stepladder effect
Mhm.
of life that a lot of people feel like is their plan. That's not your plan, and that's somebody's plan, but it's not your plan. And so that's where mindset comes in, because that crystal ball, like that thing that is in you to do, that is your future. If you've ever envisioned yourself doing the thing, whatever it is, whether it's speaking to a large group of people or, helping children or whatever, there's so many different paths you can go to do that, right? So speaking to a large group of people could mean, yeah, being a public speaker. It could also mean being somebody who does training, who does teaching, helping children. There are infinite possibilities for that. So that crystal ball is also open to interpretation. That's where your mindset comes in. That is where all that possibility is there for you when you believe it or don't. And that is a mindset too.
No, that's great. I think that's really wonderful words of wisdom and insight, and especially based on experience. So we've got a couple commenters. Want to share them on the screen. We've got OJ Cartoon. Hello to you. I know you've been commenting on previous LinkedIn Lives. So happy to have you, and please share with others. We also have, well, this is an Edabambo. I'll leave it at that. What is the title of his talk, please? Well, it's focused on how you can change your mindset and also change your trajectory and, you know, the way to optimize LinkedIn. And, to Gretchen's point, I was thinking the same thing. It's remarkable how we think the same thing and someone says it and they were just thinking it. But, that comes with alignment.
Yep.
Is that when, generally speaking, everybody was a kid, they thought of themselves. I know my son was going to be an NBA player and he was going to be taken the fifth person in the draft. And he was going to play for Milwaukee, even though we lived in Detroit. And over time, he didn't get taller. And after a while, people were telling him he wasn't that good at basketball. And that dream kind of diminished. And some kids want to be astronauts or senators or whatever you want to be. So it shows everybody started with the ability to dream, with the ability to believe in their dream and even share it with other people and feeling like it was just a given.
Yeah.
Now, what happened from that person to today's person is who they've been around, who's been giving them feedback. There's a lot of people who grew up confident and got more confident because they were nourished. They're around people that supported them, that believed in them, and made them believe in themselves. But there's a vast majority of people who've been around dream stealers, who, without even knowing it, family and friends have told them what they can do and what they can't, and why are they doing things. And you get beat down through like erosion. And what happens is you settle for pot luck. Graduated school, got a job. Somebody knew somebody, got a job. Somebody this, got a job. And 20 years later, you're good at your job, but it could be so far away from your passion.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of the day, success needs to be measured in happiness, right? Because that's pure and that's something you give to yourself.
Yeah.
If it's purely just numbers and financials, well, it'll make a nice, I wouldn't say quality of life, but you'll have nice things in life. And to what me and Gretchen are saying is, to get better, you need to disassociate from those people who pull energy from you and optimism, and replace them with people who believe in you, believe there is opportunity for change, and believe together, if you can't do it, we can, right? And that's the benefit, is not just adding more, but adding different, complementing what you have, and really just sharing that you need compassion, you need empathetic support. I
Yep.
know people can't always communicate that. If they could, they probably wouldn't need as much help. But,
Yeah.
but you got to trust yourself to experience what someone who you believe could have value, to try it. And we've got some more people, bunch of hearts. Great.
Yeah. Hi, Samantha. I see she just signed on. So.
Oh, cool. I got another commented.
Yeah. And you know,
Well,
I was, yeah.
I do a LinkedIn Live every day around this time. I've been doing a LinkedIn Live with Gretchen. It seems to be working out for us and for everybody else. So if you like what we're doing, it's usually Mondays that we've chosen, and typically around this time. So tune in, share with others. Samantha's here. Hi, Gretchen and Don. Well, hi, Samantha. It's nice to see more people, because really that's what we're here for, is to serve you. And if you have any specific topics or questions, we'd be more than happy to focus on that. What we're trying to do is prime the pump and say, here's where our mind is today on how to change mindset, because once you can change that, you open the gate, right? Now things can improve. And here's one, again, very popular. Trust oneself is actually one key to success. I just realized that not quite long ago. Well, you know, that's a great insight. And it's so much more fun to do things when you believe in them and when you believe in yourself. You know, Mondays, I can't wait for those to come. And some people are praying for Fridays, you know. Okay, here's another. Hi, Gretchen, kindly accept my connection request. Well, great. Well, sure will. Happy to have you on board. And Gretchen, you've had a lot of experience directly with dealing with people. How does it usually go?
I mean, it depends on where everybody is when we first get together. But one of the things that I like to start with, and I call it RAM thinking, but it really is the top of that results pyramid that we all learned a long time ago. And that is that, you know, the pyramid actually works from the bottom up, but from the top down, RAM just stands for, it's an equation that I use, and it bears out every time. So 100% success rate, because this is the way it works. The results that you see, that you get anywhere in your life, are absolutely equal to the action that you took plus the mindset that you have that led to that action. That is what creates the life we are living. Little by little, incrementally, little decisions, big ones, but make no mistake about it, that's how it happens. And the way that happens is, you know, we all come in, like we were talking about, into this world with a sort of conscious awareness of what is. And then we make choices based on our perception of what is. And there are all these things that come in. So everything's a big filter around us. So I think of like we're in this sort of cocoon inside, you know, this big filter. And then that's where our, you know, our values come in. What is it that we value? Now, understanding your values will and should and can change over the course of your life. Also, your values in any one area of your life might be different than they are in another. So, for example, what you value professionally in your working life right now might be different from what you're going to value in your professional life 10 years from now. In the same way, what you value in your personal life might be different than what you value in your relationship life or your health life, right? Or your hobby life, right? So you have to know what those are, what you stand for, right? That kind of thing. That also helps you get that inner resolve, because you also know where your priorities are, your personal priorities are. That's important, because when you work up on that pyramid, the next thing up from conscious awareness to your values and your priorities comes your views, your opinions, and your beliefs. They are formed from those. So again, that tier is very important because it's sort of the last of the filters before you get to your mindset. All those things we just talked about are very, very influential over your mindset. And so when we get up to, the top, that RAM thinking, that is so important because understanding how your mindset is formed and also how to protect it and also how to recast it if you need to. And you can do that. It's a practice. And like any practice just means you do it over and over and over again until, it becomes human nature. So, there are good mindsets and there are challenging mindsets. And, we all have to deal with those. But I start with the mindset that we're working with. And then I want to figure out if there are opportunities to strengthen that, or if we're good to go, we just have maybe some other challenges that are coming in there. So again, if we have a positive mindset, we may still have some decision-making challenges that come in there. And there are various reasons for that. But that's usually not usually, that is always where I start, is with the mindset. What are we working with? Who are we? And then we go from there. And that's really important because I can't really, in my experience, there's no lasting, sustainable change that can happen if you don't know your mindset and if you don't know how to work with, improve, and strengthen your mindset. It's the compass.
I think that's so comprehensive. Let's just share really quickly. Samantha, changed my mindset this morning. Well, good for you. I realized I was not in a good headspace. Took a moment to find my center. Now I feel much better.
Boom.
All it takes is, it's like anything else, is an adjustment. And
Yeah.
small adjustments over time become significant. Really think you need more of this. God bless you guys for hosting us. Young guys like me need this. I think you guys are impacting the world positively. Bless you. Well, bless you back. Samantha, practice having positive mindset daily. And, I think that's really the key, is people know what is, but they justify what isn't based on a comfort level or a discomfort level.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a saying, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you typically want to make a change.
Yeah.
Right? If you know there is. And a lot of times you don't know what you're into until you're out of it and you reflect on it. And in most cases, you accept what you have because you don't know if there's another choice or how you can take advantage of it. People work in crappy jobs with unpleasant people and bad environment, and they can't leave. In a lot of cases, job means just over broke, right? So
I've never heard that. That's so funny.
yeah, and that's typically, you make enough to live and come back, but you never make enough to leave on your own unless you got something waiting for you. And then fear is based on risk aversion or risk itself. And sometimes it's just too much for anybody, including myself. I find these LinkedIn lives are very positive because when you're around other people who are dealing with the same situations, are trying to figure out solutions, you feel like you're in company. Fear only really hurts the most when you're by yourself. When you're sitting there alone and all you have is you and you've used all of you up, right? But you still need more of you. So you end up with conflict and you end up with your mind minimizing things to accommodate things that don't relate to them. And somehow it fits into the container, but it's not a good fit. And until you open the lid and you let things out and you examine it with someone who doesn't have any skin in the game.
Right.
Right? A third party who's honest. Because here's the other thing, not only family and friends, and I love family and friends, are dream stealers. They don't always realize what you're into and how to get out of it anyways. How many of your family knows anything about LinkedIn, right? Or has done anything? So what kind of advice, even with the best of intentions, could they give you? And I think, to be honest, LinkedIn is too big of an opportunity for any one person to get full potential out of by themselves. And if they do, satisfaction and quality of life will be imbalanced,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you really know the factors that you're dealing with, then it justifies an investment because in a way you're changing where you're going. And if you know where you're going isn't going to get you any further, which is typically a plateau, you accommodate it or you don't, or you leave. But here's the
Mm-hmm.
question. If you came for a reason and the opportunity only got better while you were here and you only gained more experience while you were here, where you're going to go to and what are you going to do there? And will that repeat again? Because I'm sure Gretchen's seen a lot of experience where it's just a pattern. People do
Yeah.
this, get to here,
Yeah.
do something else, and end up there. And somehow, you could look at anything, weight loss,
Right.
physical exercise. But here's some more. Samantha, I also think there's a big difference in having a positive and just thinking positive thoughts. Well, anything you do needs to stick for a while,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you can continue to roll it into tomorrow, build on it, really plan. I think planning is so key. Here's I'm 22, have a positive, and it works for me, and this is why I love. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Gretchen?
I was going to say, yeah, because when it comes to again, back to Samantha's point, there is a difference. And to me, the difference is, the old saying, thoughts become things. And we talked about it. Your mindset comes from what you believe. Your beliefs come from your thoughts. They just do. Anything you think enough over and over and over, repetitive, becomes your belief, and we act from our beliefs. The decisions we make, the actions we take come from our beliefs. So we think about how we learned in school, go all the way back, right? Repetition. How do we learn our ABCs? How do we learn our times tables? How do we learn anything? Repetition. If you need to get up and give a presentation, you practice it. That's repetition. That's how we learn. It's how we teach ourselves who we are or who we think we are. And it's a very important thing. And so a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, will try to attach this woo-woo label to it, but it's not. It literally is the foundational building block of everything else in your life. How far do you think you can go? What success are you going to have? Where are you going to be in 10 years? All these things, they speak to your mindset. And, you were saying a lot of people have these repeatable patterns. Well, there are the 4 zones, right? So you've got the zone of incompetence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and the zone of genius. And the zone of, excellence is really kind of where most people live. And that sounds great. You're where you're good at things and, you're getting recognized and you're praised and all that. But your zone of excellence is your comfort zone. You're not going anywhere in your comfort zone. Like you can be there and it's comfortable and you can, tick all the check boxes on everybody's success lists, but ultimately that is not where you need to be if you're really going to get to that zenith of life that you want to get to. That's your zone of genius, right? And that's, you have to be able to understand what it takes to get there and how you're going to get there. It's really important. So, again, it's one of those things where you can stay comfortable, but it's not going to get you where you ultimately want to go. And over time, what happens is it will chip away at your mindset, because in your mind, you might want to be here, but if you're operating in that zone of excellence, you're going to stay here because you're not pushing yourself. And again, your mindset will reinforce itself. Anything you tell yourself over and over and over again, right? If you've been in a job that you're doing really well in and you've gotten recognized for it and you're comfortable, you're good at it, you're getting your 1% to 2% every year, 5 years from now, you're not really incrementally in any much better position if you factor in like inflation and, cost of insurance going up and everything else, right? You're really not the same, but you're comfortable. But are you happy? That's an everyday sort of application of what that looks like. Over time, that becomes a challenge for people. Sometimes they can't get over that challenge. And that's when people are like, I got to make a change. And they turn like a major corner. That to me is, I know we like to put labels on things like midlife crisis and all this other stuff. But really, I think that's somebody who got to a point and just went, enough enough. I'm not doing the thing I said I would always do. And, I'm frustrated and, I want to make a change, but I don't know how to do it. And the way to do it, the way to start anything is believing that you can. I mean, I'll go back to, the house blowing up in 2018, when our house blew up, and this is a direct personal experience of mine, so I can speak to it with 100% authority. But when that happened, obviously your entire life is thrown upside down. Everything you own is not with you. And, you have to find a place to live and you have to do all this stuff. And there's, financial, everything is crushing down on you. You can feel the walls closing in. And I did. And it was one of those times where I just, I remember there was this thought, everything always works out. Hi, Aya. Everything always works out better than I expect. And it's funny because I'm sitting in an apartment that one of my husband's friends found for us to stay in for 3 months until we could figure some things out. We still had to pay for it and the mortgage on the house we couldn't live in anymore. But that thought came to me. And as much as I said, ridiculous, this is BS, blah, 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 I said it to myself. I said it until I proved it to myself. And that was because we tend to, and in those situations, really for any of us, it's so easy to catastrophize. What happened? And then we extrapolate and then we build it and it becomes this big thing that's hard to wrangle. But boy, we're living in it and we can't get out of it. That's how your mind is how you get out of it. I mean, it is, you can read, and see documentaries of how people mentally got themselves out of, prisons and like literal prisons and not just their mental prisons, and were able to sustain and come through and rebuild and build, right? So those thoughts are really important. They are the things that we tell ourselves. They're not cushy, happy, sprinkly rainbow things if unless we don't do anything with them, unless we don't actually believe them. I mean, anybody can, I can tell myself I'm 9 feet tall and I got a terrific dunk shot. Okay, well, factually, that's not true. But I can tell myself that it is possible for me to learn how to play basketball. It's not possible probably for me to grow another 4 feet. But hey, maybe one day with artificial intelligence, I could do that for myself. But what I believe to be possible for me is true if I believe it and I act on it. Now, going back to Samantha's point, if you let thoughts stay where they are and you never take action based on them, yeah, you're going to get what you get. But you got to, that's again, going back to that results pyramid. When you get up to those top 2 tiers, mindset, it informs the actions that we take. And the actions that we take little by little every day become the reality that we live. If you don't believe that your boss is on your side, you don't believe that your company's ever going to give you a raise, you don't believe that it's possible for you to lead that project that you want, you will in your mind convince yourself it's never going to happen. So you will begin to take action or not that will absolutely bring about that reality. You'll never talk about it. You'll never come up. You'll have resentment. You'll telegraph those feelings. It will come out in the words you say. It will come out in your behaviors. It will come out in the product that you produce. And you will create that reality.
Well, everything you do either takes you closer to your goal or further away.
Yeah.
Right? Everything you eat transforms what you look like and how you feel. Right?
Yeah.
If you choose a carrot over a cheeseburger every day, the first day nothing will show.
Yeah.
Right? Over time, though, just like the opposite, when you do good things,
yeah,
it makes a difference. And people need people to help themselves. When you talk about people who have left literal prison or have overcome severe adversity, I would almost guarantee that someone was there to ease the transition. Some literature, some individual. And what I would suggest is exactly what I do. Is in the old school days, you would have to be or meet someone to get some assistance or support.
Yep.
Today's age, I go to YouTube on any subject, like even go to see what LinkedIn has on YouTube. They only have 10, 20, 30 at best real quality players who are telling you how to play. So at any time, you can watch a 4 or 5 minute video. You can then subscribe to their channel, and you can go back and see everything they've ever done. So the questions you're asking on these live shows is great, because one thing I love about LinkedIn Live, it's person to person, it's real time, real people, real conversation, where you are right now, no time to think about it or plan for the answer.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that, which also is forgiving for any mistakes, because you couldn't edit it, where before if you just prepared one. But what I hope me and Gretchen are sharing and projecting today is there's not just hope for change. There's a definite opportunity to succeed with change,
Yeah.
and we've seen it. We are an example of it in so many ways. And that's why I think wisdom and experience are now getting more appreciation, because there is repetition to things that were done 40 years ago are just as relevant and valid today, and things that happen today change by the second. So you having a foot in both areas, or access to people who have that. Why not leverage what someone already paid for? And if
That
you paid for it, don't you get some gratification to say, well, that experience wasn't so bad now that 3 people didn't have to go through it because I was able to share it. And now,
it
go ahead.
is absolutely what I say it all the time, and I feel like everybody should do it. If you live it, give it. Right? If you know it, show it. Show it to other people. My camera is not forgiving. It's not. It's a problem. But if you live it, give it. Right? Whatever you know, show it to other people. Nobody, that's a gift that you can give people, and it starts a ripple effect that just benefits everybody. And that's the other thing too, is none of this, I'm not the original thought producer of anything mindset related. I've just walked that walk, and I know what it's done for my life. I know what it's done for my clients. I know what it did for my teams when I was still in corporate. That understanding that you can create, do, be, believe, whatever you can, but it has to start here. And so, yeah, that didn't originate with me. I don't have a copyright on that, but that's the beauty of it. It's all out there to learn and grow and get examples from, going all the way back, as far back as recorded history goes, and the fact that I and Samantha are here, like, they also are support. They have walked that walk. They know that's how they're able to help other people. You're the same, right? So Don, everybody, who's participating in this is a support for somebody else who needs that understanding that you can do this too. It's not some exclusive group that's like, nobody can join. No, everybody can do this. That's the beauty of it. And that's also the beauty, I think, of shared wisdom through history, is that it's not exclusive. It is for everybody. The benefits are amazing. But again, you have to have a fundamental understanding and belief that it is possible for you. And if you're struggling with that, there are techniques, there are strategies to work through that. But to your point, it does take time. We live in a very immediate society. It's like I told you last week when we were on the live. Everybody, wants to know when it's going to happen. Put it on the calendar. Tell me when. And tell me at what level of compensation it's going to happen for me. I want to know when and how much. But it doesn't work that way. And so that's where, that sort of putting it into practice, incremental steps, and celebrate those micro wins, because they're there. You don't have to have the monster win or be on stage or become Beyonce before you celebrate the fact that you are winning. You're doing the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate those micro wins, because they're going to help reinforce your confidence, which reinforces your mindset, because it reinforces your belief that it is possible, because you're acknowledging it is possible. Here are the tangible results in my life. That's how it's a snowball effect. That's how it works.
Yeah. And I think also there's a saying, if your why's big enough, you'll figure out the how to. Having the proper intention, having something bigger than yourself that's important enough to say, well, if it was just me, I wouldn't do it, but I got 3 people depending on me, right?
Yeah.
Or if your goal is, I really got to get a bigger house, or I can't keep driving that car anymore, or my kids really deserve a higher education, right? And every time you look at yourself and say, I don't feel like doing it, think about why you're doing it, right? If it was just to buy a new pair of pants or a jacket, you'd say, yeah, big deal. That's not worth it.
Hmm.
But, if you care enough about something, all of a sudden you've got a positive excuse to do something you normally wouldn't do,
Yeah.
right? And that justifies it because, it's just amazing when you see people who are faced with tremendous adversity. Sometimes they find this unbelievable strength they didn't know they had, right?
Yeah.
Until that happens, they never get to actualize that situation. And, every day there's something unexpected, unhappy,
Yep.
that you say, okay, today's the day I've got to go to the doctor. Today's the day I've got to go to court. Today's the day I've got to pay a bill, right? And I've been waiting or anticipating this. And you can always come up with an excuse, but yourself, you can run, but you can't hide. And anything you do today will be the direction you start moving from,
Yep.
right? So if you start giving up, you're going to keep giving up.
Yeah.
And if you keep justifying that no one cares, how many people are you creating situations where they can care, where you're
Yeah.
worthy of their care, right? It's not what you need or want. It's really what you deserve is typically what you're going to get. And if you are worthy and you present yourself in the best possible form, I mean, just like going on an interview, right? Go in late, go in sloppy, don't look at the person and say yes, no answers.
All right.
And you may be the greatest thing on earth for that position, but you didn't earn it. You
Yeah.
didn't show enough respect for it and for the person. Here, let's just run through these real quick. Believe, because when you believe, then everything will become reality. Samantha, real quick, we want more people to join the Positive Mindset Club for sure. We are getting these two individuals fired up, that's for sure.
Right.
Here's Aya. Thank you so much. Another one. What's the
Yeah.
deeper why? Well,
Yeah.
the deeper why is whatever you can close your eyes and think of, oh, if this could come true, right?
Yeah.
If I could create this or provide for this or enjoy this, it could be a Tahiti vacation for a month, if that's what your why is. Go
But
ahead.
I want to go back to something you said before, because when you're talking about, when you're in that interview, and if you're not, if you're not presenting yourself, there's another thing that people do. And this goes back to mindset, where you can be the person who's going to be so successful in that job, but you may never get the opportunity because mindset, right? Let's say somebody asks you a question and it speaks on some level to you, and it sort of triggers in you a lack of self-confidence about it. People telegraph that. They telegraph it with their eyes going somewhere or downcast or the slight change in body posture. Those things, even the slightest change, or they get flushed, the little throat red, or whatever, a little sweat comes out here. Like there are tells that everybody has that sort of betray their confidence, and nobody does it on purpose. But that's another reason why mindset is really important. And, mental priming, it can be very, very effective in those situations. Before you're going for the interview, obviously you've prepared, you've spent your time researching the company, doing what you need to do, preparing, for the questions that they're going to ask, because there are, I think, like 5 to 7 questions that everybody asks. I know I certainly did in my 10.5 years as a hiring manager and department head. But, you've done all that work. But in the moment, that's when it really is revealing. And so you can do that mental priming. And to Samantha's point, sometimes it is just reaffirming, that mindset for yourself. This is going to be great. Again, we don't all know, the crystal ball or whatever, but you can, reaffirm to yourself the belief that this is going to be a great interview. I am going to be so confident. I'm going to rock this, whatever it is. And there will be, obviously, there are schools of thought, and there are people, for many reasons will be like, oh, that's not a thing. And that's fine for them. They can go about their day and enjoy their whatever. But I know for me, having put it into practice for, not, and I'll say this, not all of my 53 years, because it took a series of really challenging, like bad things, for a number of years. The house blowing up was just the most recent one, and not the worst. But it took those things and working through those and understanding my own process, my own personal system, and what was working for me and what was challenging me. And then building those strategies and those techniques over time and making it a practice, to prioritize that and build, rebuild, and continually rebuild that mindset. That's how this happens. And so when you're in those things, the stories you tell yourself become your narrative. And if you tell yourself, I have what it takes, I can do that job, but that everything after the but is the reason it won't happen.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Everything after it.
there's a saying, every time you say but, you can eliminate what was said before that.
Absolutely. Because you
Right?
just guarantee,
If you say
exactly.
you got a great hat, but if it was a different color or whatever, but to follow up on your point, there's so many things one can do, but having someone with them, right? Enjoying the ride, that makes it where, I always said it's not where you're at or what you're doing, it's who you're with,
Mhm.
right? And if you're with the right people doing the right things, everything around you gets better because you're getting hopeful. You could suffer a lot of adversity if you know help is on the way, right? If they say
Yeah.
the check's in the mail and in 7 days you'll get it, between now and 7 days, you'll work it out. I
Yeah.
learned because I was always against going to the dentist because I hated drills. And when I went to the dentist, they had drills that weren't like the drills today. So maybe there was a good reason. Uh, but I eventually said to myself,
Hey,
well,
Bruce.
this is going to take about 90 seconds or 60 seconds where it might be a little intense.
Mm-hmm.
I can count to 60 knowing that when I get done counting, it's done. Right. And then at the end of the day, you come back to yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to account to yourself. Why didn't you do what you said you were going to do today? There was a book called The 5 Second Something. And the premise was your mind is always telling you the right thing to do, but you're not always listening to it. So let's say you're walking out of your house and you see something on the floor, and the first thing it says, pick that up and put it away. And then you think, well, I'll do it later, or I'm in a rush. But if you would do that little thing whenever you see it, at the end of the day, you probably do 7 or 8 little things that, now, first of all, you did it, right? You accomplished something by doing it, and you didn't accomplish anything by leaving it. So you got to almost be surreal. You almost have to detach from yourself to look at yourself from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And say, why didn't you follow your intuition?
Yeah.
I would rather do what I feel than what I think.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
thinking is very, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I think it goes back to the micro win. So, and hi, Bruce. Bruce used to be on my team when I was still in corporate. So he's awesome, by the way. If you need a motion designer, somebody who's like really kick ass, he's the guy. But so I will say this. So when you're talking about that, why didn't you do what you say? That accountability is huge. And this will go all the way back to what, Samantha was saying before about thoughts and mindset. And what I was saying about celebrating those micro wins, accountability goes to confidence, right? When we hold ourselves accountable, or we have accountability partners, and we all have them, even though we don't call them that in our lives, but people who will do that follow up. What happened when you, right? And, oh, well, I didn't because I didn't feel like it, or it wasn't the right time, or, but those are the accountability metrics. And when we are accountable, those are micro wins. When we hold ourselves accountable and we do the thing, whether it's picking up the thing off the floor or putting the laundry or any of those things that are everyday things, those are micro wins because those are holding ourselves accountable to something greater. And we should celebrate those because those also help build our confidence. And our confidence basically helps, like I was saying, it goes right to what we believe about ourselves and what we are capable of and what is ultimately possible for us. And that helps determine future actions because that is your mindset. So all those things are important. And that accountability, it gets a bad rap because a lot of people think it's a negative thing, like somebody's like watching over my shoulder and babysitting every decision I make. Accountability is everything throughout the day. Did you do what you said you were going to do? Did you do what you wanted to do? Did you do what you intended to do? It's an opportunity, really, is what it is. And to prove to yourself that you're doing it. And I'm going to read what she says because Samantha just said, go ahead and add self-awareness into that mix, Gretchen, because being self-aware makes it easier to be accountable. Absolutely. Pay attention to yourself. Where are you? How are you feeling about any given thing at any given time? What are you doing with that? And if you're feeling negative about something, again, what are you doing with that? You got that self-awareness is huge. I think I put that in a post I made this morning about, when you are, going through the sort of, this sort of belonging trap, right? And belonging is a fundamental human need. But this sort of, the mind sway mentality of if everybody's doing it, then I should do it. That can be good and that can be bad. Trends, fads, all those things. But again, that self-reflection, where am I in all of this? Where are my values? How do I feel about this? Is this important to me? And then, again, go up the results pyramid, where when we're in our views, opinions, and beliefs about whatever it is, that is the tier that then moves up into our mindset, the actions we take based on our mindset, and ultimately the reality at the very top that we've created because of all that sprinkling down and bubbling back up.
Yeah. And, when you look at it, what makes you feel better also applies to who makes you feel better and whose support. I mean, also, if you go back to your childhood, and most things are learned there, what did you have to do to get approval? And what kind of approval did you typically get?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And no matter what it is you think, based on the people around you, will shape your thoughts. I'll give you a quick example. During the pandemic, my wife didn't get her hair cut for a long time, and she always wore short hair.
Mm-hmm.
And it became long, pretty long. And everybody loved it, right? And initially, she just thought it was too much to handle. But after everybody loved it, she would never cut it now,
Yeah.
right? So I'm saying it's just like a comedian tells jokes that they think is funny, and if the audience doesn't laugh, those jokes will change,
Yes.
right? And what I love about LinkedIn Live and the discussions we're having, right, and the people we're interacting with, this is where it's at. Because now I would rather be 1/10 of 10 people talking than 100% of me, because you'll learn as you teach if other people are teaching with you, sharing with you. And what it does is it gives you third-party validation that, hey, other people experience it the same way,
Yeah.
look at it the same way. And it also says there is a big market for this and a great opportunity to help a lot of people get over the hump. Because what we're talking about is once you get through your mindset issue, everything else gets better. Because
Yes.
Gretchen's point, when I believe I'm going to get something, I always get it because I just believe it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I deserve it, right? If you take something in and return it because it's not any good, I don't ever think I'm going to go home with it, you know? And if I did, and there are people who are shy, who buy things, can't take them back, or afraid to do a refund, they don't, right? And the key is, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And I would like to think that every day I left the log pile bigger for myself and more importantly for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And understand what your give quotient is. How much can you give before you start to feel uncomfortable giving, right? how much can you support? Because as you muscle up on the giving end, it won't take long before it to come back to you, because if it was valuable, people want another taste of it.
Well, and also I think when you are in that mode, when you are just freely giving, you're also more aware of what other people are giving. So the value that they can give to your life, what they can teach you. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Samantha was a hotness unleasher on Trevor's show a few weeks ago, because she's doing that. She's giving something and people were like, this freaking rocks. Let's call attention to her. You were another one. I got introduced to you because of that, because you were doing things that people were like, this is so great. Let's talk about Donald Cohen, right? And that's how I got introduced to you. And so I think that when your mindset is open to, giving to other people, you are more aware of who's also doing that and where you can learn from them. And I really think that it's a huge gift that everybody can give each other. Again, if you know it, show it to somebody else. Even if you don't think it's important, there's somebody out there who's tuned to that frequency, who needs to hear it, who needs to hear what you have to say. And nobody's going to be able to say it the way that you do, because nobody's going to have the same experience living and dealing with it that you have, whatever it is for you. No two people have the same fingerprint. There's a reason for that. Everything, we have a uniqueness about us, each of us. And there is a need for that in the world. That's not pie in the sky stuff. That's logic and reality, and again, I'll pull out something that, because I mentioned it this morning in the post, when we talk about our mindset, everything begins with the thoughts that we think. The thoughts we think repeatedly become the beliefs. I'm going to repeat it again, become the beliefs that we have. And the beliefs that we have determine the actions that we take, which creates our reality. And you think about it, everything in the world, LinkedIn was an idea that someone had at some point. It didn't exist when the world was created. LinkedIn Live didn't exist a year or two ago, but it does now because someone had the thought about it. That thought became a thing because they took the actions to create the technology and do the beta testing and everything else that made it possible to bring it to us, for us to be here having this conversation with each other today. Thoughts do become things. You can, like it, lump it, but make your mind up to it. The fact that we're talking on LinkedIn Live, a product that did not exist a year or two ago, right? That's
Well,
proof.
and it's
right
a
there.
discussion
This
we
red
wouldn't,
shirt.
well, we wouldn't
Exactly.
have. But here's another way, and I think visualization and perspective and context are essential. If you look at this as a relay race, right? Everybody runs their own lap, but they're dependent on someone handing them the baton and them handing someone else the baton when they finish. And collectively, they all depend on each other handing that baton off.
Yeah.
And it sounds contra to what most people think, because most people are raised or influenced to think that you don't give something till you get something. Make sure you don't get taken advantage of is really the thing. Make sure
Yeah.
it's legit. Make sure they're this. And the practice of doing is also the practice of learning how to do.
That's
Right?
also
Go ahead.
Sorry. That's also the hallmark of a scarcity mindset, which is a
Yeah.
limiting mindset. You'll never, that is not the mindset. That's a limiting mindset. A scarcity mindset tells you you have to acquire before you can do anything else, but you can't acquire anything unless you have given something. If you want to acquire a job, you got to give something. You got to give a little bit of yourself in an interview, answer some questions, submit a resume. You have to have given something of yourself. And in giving that, you told a story about the value that you could bring based on what you've already given to other people and other companies that got you in there. I mean, that's a form of giving, So you're not, the scarcity and the lack mindset is a nowhere road unless you really want to live in frustration and disappointment, because it'll take you there every time, but that's not the mindset that will get you where you want to go. So yeah, just had to
Well,
say
I
that.
think
Sorry.
anybody actually who tunes into shows like this, who asks questions, are already on the threshold of making the change because they know a change is out there and they're worthy of it,
Yeah.
but they just need some help. It's no different than anything else. Is sometimes it's just a step or two that's a little too steep or a little too scary. And once you
Yeah.
can get someone's hand to help you down or help you up,
Yeah.
now, first of all, you got where you want to go, but now you know how valuable it was. So hopefully now you've got a hand down instead of a hand waiting to come down to help you. And it doesn't matter whether you're the helper or the one getting help, you're in the process. And the more you do, the more you enjoy, because here's the beauty of it. While you're waiting to win, wouldn't it be nice to be with other people who you're helping win and see them win? Because then it's like it's just a matter of time, right? It's
Yes.
working for them. I mean, everybody I'm doing LinkedIn Lives with, whether it's a coincidence, and I don't believe it, is making quantum leaps into areas and territories, and people are reaching out to them now instead of them doing all the pushing. They're getting some of the pullback.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like Gretchen said, we don't do anything to produce any of the services LinkedIn provides or anything to do with the platform or any of that, right? So I believe in Microsoft. I believe in LinkedIn. I believe in 875 million people being on this platform. All you have to do is chisel out a little slice that's going to be huge for anybody if you can take advantage of. And here's one thing that makes it all worthwhile. If this was a lottery and you got lucky one day and then got back to figuring out how do I get lucky tomorrow, this is more like an ATM machine. You could back right into LinkedIn, type in the numbers every day and get anything you want from the network. If you're attractive enough from a value add standpoint, right?
Yeah.
If every time you tune in for this hour and people get 4, 5, 6 takeaways, get inspired, this could be the missing piece. One word of what we said that we didn't even know was important could change someone's whole plan going forward. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, now I heard it. Now it makes sense. That was what I was looking for. And now I'm going to do it. And that's what makes it worthwhile, is not only helping people, but
Yeah.
hearing how it helped and then sharing that story with others, because anybody could say, well, you and Gretchen can do it because you're this and you're that, and I'm not any of that, right? I was this and I was that, now I'm this. And when you can see everybody just like you being able to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then that's where your belief changes, right? I mean, the guy who wrote, there was a thing in the 60s or 50s, no human could run faster than a 4-minute mile. They had 100 reasons why the body just wouldn't do it. And then Roger Bannister, I think it was in 56, ran a sub 4-minute mile for the first time. Within that year, 10 more runners got sub 4 minutes.
Yep.
Why? And they
Because
get that much stronger, but all of a sudden it's like, hey, he showed it. He did it. If he can do it, it can get done. I can do it. And then all of a
yeah.
sudden a whole, floodgate opens up.
Yep.
And then once you get over one fear, the next fear gets easier to get over. And
Yes.
pretty soon you clean house. And one last thing with the spirit or ability for abundance is, until you clean everything out, have you opened up everything to now receive anew, right? If you're stuffing stuff here and hiding stuff there and protecting stuff there, your ability to breathe new opportunity into you is limited, because you're dragging legacy into the future.
Yeah.
You're taking things that aren't relevant anymore, aren't necessary anymore, but they're, to Gretchen's point, comfortable,
Yeah.
easy to deal with. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't want to be maximized. I don't know why, but that's okay too. Not everybody wants to run at the fastest speed, and that's what I always believe is a measure, is happiness. I will tell
Yeah.
you, if you're completely happy, if you wake up the way you want and go to sleep the way you want, I wouldn't change a thing, because
But that,
that's so rare.
yeah. I mean, I think for some people, that is running at full speed. That is their ultimate success, or that belief in themselves, that mindset realization that I can be happy, be fulfilled, all those things. I mean, I think that is really important for people to remember. I mean, and again, success for anybody, that success can happen for anyone on any scale, means it's possible for everybody. Because again, we're all, there are different circumstances, yes, but as soon as the people you were mentioning saying, well, Don, you and Gretchen can do that because you're X, Y, and Z, but I can't do that because X, Y, and Z. As soon as you tell yourself that, that's the universal but I can't. Well, okay, yeah, you can't. I don't really care what you had to say after that. You believe you can't, and you're the living proof of that. Or the converse. But again, sometimes that means patience. Yes, you can. Can I, like getting up at 5 o'clock? I wanted to do it for a long time, but I know if I had set my alarm for 5, the next day I'd wake up at 5 grudgingly and I wouldn't do it again. So I did a strategy with myself to naturally program my body to get up earlier and earlier every day until I was getting up consistently at 5 without effort. I can do that. I just have to figure out how it works for me and be patient enough and reinforce for myself little successes along the way until I get there, right? And then when I get there, it's like, okay, what can I do now? Where can I go now? Like that's the cool stuff. But as soon as you tell yourself, I don't know if it was Henry Ford or somebody that said, whether you can or you can't, you're right. Or whether you tell yourself you can or you can't, you're right. It's true, and whenever people, try to qualify their own version of success, they've capped themselves out without even starting.
Well, and to kind of close up, I would say that people who have been exposed to severe adversity and challenge and surprising ones at that have an advantage because they have something to compare anything to, right? Someone says, "Oh, that's awful." Well, compared to this, it's not that bad. Or compared to what I had to deal with, it's a walk in the park. So if you can stay humble and modest based on adversity, and if you can lower the bar that judges yourself. I mean, every day I wake up, I feel I got another ticket on the roller coaster of life. I feel blessed just to be here. Whatever is here, whether it's the sky, whether it's people, there's so much to appreciate and enjoy that if you start like that, like I'm just lucky to be in the game because, there's people who wake up today, won't go to sleep tonight. And there's
Yeah.
people who go to sleep tonight, won't wake up tomorrow. And nobody promises you tomorrow. No one can
Yeah.
save tomorrow. So that even gives you more reason is like, why not have purpose? Why
Well, and
not contribute? Why not help?
yeah. And that mindfulness about the present moment, is really important because it can also help you. It can help being mindful in the present moment is a great technique because going back to when we were talking about how people have a tendency to catastrophize, right? It's very difficult to do that when you're concentrated on the here and now, like what's happening right now. Right now is not a catastrophe. Right now you're here, you're doing your thing, and we can plan or think about other things. But when you start to jump ahead, and make those assumptions and draw conclusions based on, conclusions about the future based on past experiences, there's all this stuff in the middle that could change it. But we sort of believe that we already know what's going to happen because of what happened in the past, but it's not that way. If that were that way, I would think that every house I lived in was going to blow up because my last one did. But I know that's not going to happen, so things like that. But again, being in that present moment and understanding that this is where I can root and anchor myself, and I can be happy right here, and then take that into the future. And again, if you can do it right here, you can do it anywhere. So for the people who are like, well, I'll be happy when, and put conditions on it, you don't pack it away. You either have it and it goes with you, but you can discover it right now, but not down the road. It's got to go with you. So yeah, that's also really, really important. So I wanted to mention that.
Well, anyways, I always love having these LinkedIn Lives with Gretchen. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Feel free to share. I want to thank everybody for participating,
Yeah.
whether invisibly or invisibly. And recommend you can visit my LinkedIn profile or Gretchen, see more of what we do. If you like what we've done, you can look at our past history of activity and watch some other programs. And look forward to seeing everybody next week. So have a wonderful day. Gretchen, you have some final words?
No, I just appreciate everybody taking the time. This was a really great discussion. Carrie with his jokes, always.
Well, thank everybody, and we'll talk again. Bye.